Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we have with us another special guest, and he goes by the name of Zach Dotinga. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about the pathology space of what's called wound care. Ever thought of being a wound care sales rep? What exactly is a wound care sales rep? How do you become one? What are you actually doing? And why would anybody want to do that? Well, this is where you're going to find out. I'm not going to give anything away, but I'm going to say that wound care is a fascinating space that can pay you well, give you an amazing career, and truly immerse you into the world of medical sales. So as always, we do our best to bring you guests that are doing things differently in the medical sales space, and I really do hope you enjoy this interview. Hey, Zach, how are we doing today?
Good, Samuel. Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Zach Dotinga. I'm an assistant regional manager with Advanced Pathology Solutions. We're a podiatric and wound care specific pathology lab.
Okay, so podiatric and wound care specific pathology lab. Now, there are a lot of people listening right now that have no idea what you just said. Can you please break it down for us? What is that space exactly?
Sure. So in layman's terms, the clinics I work with are podiatry offices, so podiatrists, foot doctors, and wound care centers. And what we offer them is pathology. So say, a doctor, a podiatrist wants to confirm that a patient of theirs has fungus in their toenail. They'll clip that toenail to us and we'll say yes or no, does it have fungus? And that's, putting it in simple terms.
Got it. Okay. So who's your call point? I mean, how does the sales cycle work?
So driving around, right? I'm up here in Washington. So who I'm looking for are, mainly independent podiatry groups and then wound care centers. So I kind of mentioned the fungus for those for podiatrists, but for the wound care centers, what we offer is that PCR wound swab that has some different advantages compared to the standard culture. So when I'm driving around, I'm looking for podiatry offices, usually independently owned, and wound care centers.
Got it. And is it just the doctor that you're mainly focused on getting access to, or is it the doctor, the MA, the office manager, the nurse? Who are all the players involved in you being successful?
Right. So you just kind of named the whole group of them, and every office is different, right? Sometimes, the receptionist is the one you got to win over to get that lunch, or, have access to the doctor. Sometimes, the doctor's super easy to get access to. And that's part of the job, figuring out who that, decision maker is, who's going to let you get into the office, who do you have to, build the relationship with. So that's really part of the job as well, figuring all that stuff out.
Absolutely. And so with what you're trying to do, are you ever in a procedure, or are you always just having conversations about what they can purchase from you? And as far as the actual work with the patient, you're not even privy to seeing, being a part of, nothing.
Right. So at least in my position here with diagnostics, I'm never really I'm not in the OR. I might be stopping in the clinic and walk by a patient who's in a room, but I don't really have that interaction with the patient, and not really assisting with surgery or anything like that. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay. And do you have a team, or is it just you and your territory?
So it's me and my territory. I'm a part of what we call the West Coast team. And I kind of report to my manager, my regional manager. But I'm out here in Washington, and I also cover Oregon, and I kind of hop over into Idaho as well. So I'm out here by myself. I make my business plan, my strategy, where I'm going to go, how long I'm going to be there, all that stuff, kind of on my own. And of course, I have the assistance of my regional manager when I need it. He's great. But for the most part, out here on my own.
I like to think of medical sales as like four major topics. And let's be honest, it's more than that. But for the sake of this point, I'm going to stick to four. And we'll say one of them is device sales, one of them is pharma and biotech sales, one of them is medical supplies and everything related. And then the last one is diagnostics.
Hmm.
And you guys represent diagnostics. Now, we know, and for all those listening right now, if you're a regular listener, you better know that most device positions will involve some OR based work, and you're going to have to know how to navigate and show up to a space like that. We know most pharma positions will involve strictly clinic work, where you're showing up to clinics and you're trying to get access to all the decision makers in that account. But when it comes to supplies and when it comes to diagnostics, things can get a little unique. In the vein of diagnostics, what would you say it operates most like? Would you say it's a lot like a pharmaceutical sales position where you're expected to go to an account, show up at the clinic, wait and develop the relationship with all the players in that account, wait for the doctor, and when that doctor gets time, whether it's a breakfast, lunch, or in between patients, see what you can do? Or would you say there's even more nuance to what you sell when it comes to diagnostics?
So I'm not super familiar with pharma. This is my first position in medical sales, but from kind of what you described there, it is somewhat similar to that. But once you say you win over an account, the job's not done. You're a hunter, but you're also a farmer. So you got to keep. I continually service those clinics. So kind of what I do for them is schedule their FedEx pickups for their specimens, take that off their plate, make sure they have supplies. Doc ever has a question on a report, I can, first, if I can answer it, I do that. But I also coordinate a time to speak with pathologists, make sure they're all good on supplies, and just make sure they're happy. And then, the little things about coaching up on the rec form or on the reports, or just kind of the small logistics of it. I'm always there for them. And that's kind of our business model with APS is we're white glove concierge service. So we're in the clinic, we're helping them out, and I'm kind of their main point of contact for everything they need.
I love it. I love it. Now, would you say that, or actually, why don't you share with us what empowers you most to be successful in this role? And let me give it some context. There are some roles where if you will know your clinical information cold, you're gonna be well empowered. There's other roles where it's all important, but if you can develop relationships really well, you're gonna go far. And there's other roles where relationships development's important. Being someone that understands the clinic is important, but what's even more important is understand the nature of how it works and just being able to access the right decision maker. When it comes to being a success in diagnostics, what would you say will be your biggest asset that someone could bring to that position?
So in my eyes, it's relationship building, and that's what I try to do. Whether it's relationship with the front office, the receptionist, that person that greets you when you walk in, whether it's the MA or the doctor. Building that relationship, I think, is how I win over my accounts. And how do you build those relationships? It starts with trust. And for me, building that trust is doing what you say you're going to do, and repeatedly showing up. And if you make a mistake or the lab makes a mistake, whatever, you own up to it. You say, hey, I'm going to fix this. And then you implement that fix. So for me, it's really building relationships, but I guess it's, you got to figure out who to build those relationships with as well.
Mhm.
Like you kind of mentioned.
I love it. No, I appreciate that. Now, a lot of people listen to this are thinking to themselves, you know, I want to be in medical sales. I'm not sure I want to be in the OR. I'm not sure I want to do a pharmaceutical type position, but this sounds really interesting. But I'm still not sure if this is for me. Describe for us the kind of person that should be running to this field and the kind of person that should be running away from this field.
Sure. So you gotta love the grind. And I think that's probably true for all, medical sales, whether it's device, pharma. bio, you got to put in the work. And, when you get started, especially, it's long days. It's you leave at 7, you get back at 6 or 7. Once you kind of build your territory, you might be able to ease off a little bit, but still, then once you build your territory, you have to take care of all your clinics. So somebody who loves the grind, isn't afraid of hard work, somebody who's resilient, because you get told no a lot. So you have to be okay with that, get used to it, and be able to say, "Hey, I'm going to turn that no into a yes." Kind of in my head, what I do is like every I think that every no is just getting one closer to a yes. It's like this clinic might be 15 no's. This clinic might be one no the second time I come in, but that just kind of keeps me going. And then you got to be a people person. I like it. Um, Building those relationships, going in, being comfortable talking in front of doctors and groups and things like that, is pretty critical. And to be able to build those relationships, you got to be, enjoy talking with people. So yeah, I would say those couple things.
Got it. And then the kind of person that should just stay away.
If you like sitting at a desk, that was one thing I used to hate doing. And that's why I feel like this job's great for me. I don't have to sit at a desk. So if you like sitting at a desk, sitting at a computer all day long, um, if no's are hard for you to take, you're gonna take some licks, but you just got to get back up and get to it again.
I like it. I like how you're giving yourself a really valid and fair assessment of what you do that allows you to get up and give it your all every single day. That's good stuff. Okay, so take us back to when you decided you want to be in this space at all, right? What job were you doing, and what happened that made you say, you know what, I think I'm going to go for a position in diagnostics.
So it's kind of interesting. I really didn't know that much about medical sales prior to 2 years ago. I'd done various things throughout my career, from construction management to I owned a landscaping company for a handful of years to account management. And so how I really heard about it is it's kind of a funny story. Like you talk about like sliding doors moments, like the smallest thing that like kind of
Mhm.
impacts your life. I had a friend. She had a friend in town. He wanted like a place to work out, and I had a gym in my garage at the time. So I was like, "Yeah, he can come over and work out. Like, cool. We'll get a lift in." And so he comes over and he's telling me about his job, and I'm like, "Wow, all of that sounds great. Like, got to be competitive. Got to go out and win accounts, and you get commission, and you're building relationships, and not sitting at a desk all day. And then obviously, the a certain part of it is the financial potential. And so all of that was enticing to me. And I think back, like, what if I just said no to, I can't work out today or whatever. But that's really when I first heard about it. And then from there, I moved from Michigan to Washington about 2 years ago for this job. But at first, I was applying to jobs in the greater Grand Rapids, Michigan area. Wasn't getting a whole lot of traction. So I heard about this one website called MedReps, and I kind of just picked out like 5 different cities that thought would be fun to live in. And so it was like Seattle, Austin, Denver, couple others, and it just so happened that I got an interview, and it was a whirlwind getting hired. It was like I interviewed on a Tuesday, then interviewed on a Thursday, then on Friday they offered me the job, and
Wow, that's fast.
had to let them know by Monday. And on that same Monday, I had to give my 2 weeks at the current job.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of. So that's wild because med reps, for one, is never a good source for getting jobs. It's
No.
everybody knows about it, but usually those positions are old. So that's number one. Number two, for it to be your first go around and they want to hire you within a week of meeting you, man,
It was fast.
that is fast. That's a unique and awesome experience, and I'm so glad you got to have that. So yeah, so you're right. It seems like this was a bit of an accident, for lack of a better word, but you're here now and you love it. When you think about your future in this space, can you see yourself doing this forever? Do you see yourself maybe wanting to explore some other fields? What are you thinking?
I'll be honest. This is my first job that I don't feel like I'm going to work. All pretty much all my previous jobs. Sunday night comes around, you get the Sunday scaries, and you're like, oh, dreading the week. But I don't feel that way about this job, and I feel very
Awesome.
fortunate for that. So yeah, I can definitely see myself, doing this for a long time.
Hey, that's awesome. Um, And then when you're not out there making sure all of your customers are experiencing the best from everything your company provides, what are you doing? Do you have family, hobbies? How are you living your life? So anybody that wants to do what you're doing has a taste of what their social life could look like.
Sure, sure. And I mentioned like it is hard work and there's long hours sometimes, but it's pretty flexible as well. So, um, if you want to be home at 5, you can. I just prefer to work the long hours and because I want to build my business and all those things. But outside of work, I'm not married, don't have any kids or anything like that. But like to play basketball. Played a little basketball back in the day. Hiking, backpacking, camping, those kinds of things. I'm a diehard college football fan, so try to go as many of those games a year as possible. Yeah,
Fantastic. Well, listen, it was fantastic spending time with you, Zach. We're going to wrap this up with a lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready for it.
All right. So, first question. What's the best book you've read in the last 6 months?
So I came prepared because I knew this was a question, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest book guy, not a huge reader, but I have been reading Atomic Habits.
Ooh, that's a good
So
one. Yeah.
not all the way
Yeah.
through it, but always you can pick up this little tidbit and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah, that's what I've been reading.
Awesome. What's the best TV show or movie you've seen in the last 6 months?
Um, so I've been rewatching Scrubs, which is always fun, but I think I'd go with Severance. That was I think it was on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but interesting, and yeah. So
I've never seen Scrubs, but
no,
no, I've never seen it. But I did see Severance, and I thought that was pretty good.
okay,
Yeah, Scrubs. I don't know. I just never did it. And you would think being in medical sales, that's like a must, but it just never happened. Okay, and then a last, but actually no, two more. Favorite meal, and we want the name of the item and the restaurant and where.
okay. So I was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and like I booked my like I'm book my hotel at like the day of, like 3 hours, 2 hours prior. So I just found this little inn in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I get there, and I guess they had a restaurant with the inn, and it was like a three-course thing that was kind of included with the hotel. And I'll be honest, I don't know the name of the restaurant,
Oh,
but I know, and like I'm not a huge foodie either. I kind of think of myself as a garbage disposal, so I'll eat like whatever. But it was they had like a cauliflower cheese for the appetizer, then like a flank steak over rice with some like pickled onions, and then for dessert it was raspberry cheesecake with homemade pistachio ice cream. So
ooh, that
yeah,
actually sounds pretty tasty. So
yeah,
it was phenomenal or what?
yeah, it was really good. It was very good, and like I think the surprise factor of like, oh, there's a cute little restaurant at the bottom of this inn.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting that, and I got there at like 8:30. They closed at 9. I was like, can you
Sure.
fit me
Sure.
in? And so I think the whole like ambiance
So
was
so
fantastic.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and what's the name of the hotel?
It was the Greenbrier Inn.
Okay, so everyone, we're gonna do our best to find this restaurant name and put it in the show notes from the Greenbrier Inn. You said
Yep. Yep.
Greenbrier Inn in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. You know, I don't know much about Idaho, but I can just readily admit that I would not have suspected Idaho is a place for fantastic cuisine, but I now stand corrected, and it looks like Idaho might be a destination for fantastic cuisine, or at least in Coeur d'Alene. So that is awesome. And then, last but not least, what is the best experience you've had in the last 6 months?
So like I mentioned, I'm a diehard college football fan. Michigan football specifically. So had season tickets my whole life, and so moving out here was kind of like, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to go to very many games anymore." But I was able to fly home for a couple. But with that being said, I got to go to the national championship where Michigan won and beat Washington in
Nice.
Houston with both my
Wow.
parents, and like uh, yeah, just going to games growing up with my dad and my mom and sisters and brother, and then being able to share that experience with my parents was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Well, Zach, it was fantastic learning all about the diagnostic world with you today. Please keep doing amazing things out there, and we can't wait to see the things you do in the future.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Samuel.
Absolutely. And that was Zach Dotinga. Fascinating stuff. The wound care space. You've heard the episode, and I'm sure some of you were thinking, you know what? That's exactly what I want to do. And whether you're someone that's never been in medical sales and you heard this episode, or you're someone that's in medical sales and now you're thinking about doing something like this, then you already know what I'm going to say. Make sure you visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time, and have a conversation with one of our account executives, and let's get you where you want to be. One of the cool things about our program, the Medical Sales Career Builder, is not only are we helping you get into a position that makes sense for you, we're taking the time to assess who you are as an individual, assess what you can bring to the table, and how powerful a player you can be. And one of the ways we do this, in addition to meeting you, speaking with you, and talking about the things you've been doing, we actually have you take an assessment. When you schedule a call, you'll be prompted to take an assessment. Make sure you take that assessment. It's going to give you and us a level of insight you've never seen before, and you will not regret it. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that are doing things differently in the medical sales space. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.